Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Flower Power Live. Today is May 3rd, and we have crossed into official spring here. And so I wanted to say welcome to spring and happy May Day. I hope you will pick some flowers on May Day. And also Merry Beltane to you all. So now Beltane is the cross quarter of, which is this, a cross quarter day, which is this midpoint between the spring equinox and summer solstice. And it was celebrated in more of like a Celtic tradition. It's a kind of a celebration of the deity Bay. And the purpose of it is to kind of welcome in the abundance and fertility of the season that's coming upon us next. Now, one tradition of this season was people would celebrate by going out into the woods and just kind of having a grand old time with whoever they felt like having a grand old time with, which often would lead to some babies born sometime around 9 months from now. But one of the sort of the basis for Beltane is that, like Halloween, also known as Samhain in the Celtic tradition, the veil between worlds is thinnest at these two times of year. And so at Halloween, we feel like the veil is thin enough and we can feel more of a connection with those who have passed on before us. And at Beltane, in this early spring, the veil is thinnest between the human world and the world of the fairies and other sort of nature deities. So these spirits and deities what would happen was people would leave out like offerings at different sorts of sacred places out in the woods to help appease the fairies and hope that they would help them have a wonderful growing season. So if you think you got any fairies out in your garden, you might want to leave out an offering for them right around this time of year. Now, as you may recall, in December, I drew a whole set of cards called the Wheel of the Year that are hold on, my things there. All right. Which represent each of these sort of midpoints and solstices and equinoxes throughout the year. And for this year, I drew Mint. Mint is our card for today. And I'll also remind you that the card of the year was Dandelion. And Dandelion is telling us that this year it's really important to be more playful and joyful, a little bit more childlike and adventurous in your approach to life. So let's remind ourselves of that. It's spring. It's a great time to be more joyful and playful. But Mint is our card for today. And I can't think of a more like fertile, prolific plant than mint in your garden, as well as the celebration. This is also called the Fire Festival. So it's definitely a fiery taste we get from mint, isn't it? So the mint family is the Lamiaceae, and it's a very large family. It includes a lot of some of the plants that are near and dear to our culinary hearts, shall we say. Not only does it include the mints like peppermint and spearmint, but also oregano and rosemary, thyme, sage, lavender, a lot of these other plants that are really important in our kitchen. So one of the cool things about the mint family that I talked about with rosemary is that you can identify these because they have a square stem. Now I'm hoping you can see this as I roll it. This is called Lamium. It's purple dead nettle is the name of it. And this is a great example of a square stem that helps you identify something in the mint family. Now, this is a new plant that's it showed up in my yard in abundance. And when plants do that, usually I pay attention. So I'm going to be doing a little bit more research on this, and I'll let you know what I find out about that. I think it's more of like a wild edible green than necessarily a medicinal plant. But the main plant that we all know and love is peppermint. And this is originally from Europe, and then it's naturalized all across the United States. These plants are quite beloved for their flavor, but they're not so beloved by gardeners because they are very invasive and they do take over an entire garden. I'm always amazed when I go to a garden center and they're selling peppermint. Really, like, don't you already have a huge patch of peppermint at your house already? I don't know. But you really do need to have some mint in your yard. It is a very important herb. And it's kind of like almost a gateway herb, as I like to call it. It's something super easy to use and it tastes delicious. And so even if you do decide to plant it, you can see here how it grows on these long runners. And then at each runner, let me show a better example here. That's peppermint. This is the apple mint that I mostly grow. And see how as the runner goes along, there's a plant that comes up off of each one of those nodes along the stem. So that is what it does and why you can take over so easily. But when one other tip, if you do plant mint, when you're harvesting it, it's really important that you want to try to harvest during midday when it's a nice hot sunny day, because those volatile oils inside the mint is really what you want. And so they're at their peak, they're kind of nice and warmed up, and all the oils are coming up to the surface. So when you harvest, you're going to get the best of the oily, delicious, potent parts of the plant. Now, the medicinal uses of mint, like, where do I begin? Okay, there are so many things that peppermint is used for, and I'm going to mostly speak about peppermint. The other mints have similar properties. They're just not quite as potent as peppermint. But I started using this early on mostly for digestive health. It really helps to kind of warm up your digestive system and help you kind of burn up that food and digest things easier. It's also good for like gas or bloating right after you eat as well, and even for stomach spasms. So a good cup of peppermint tea after dinner is always quite helpful. Now, of course, I went to my favorite herbalist, Matthew Wood, in his awesome book, The Earthwise Herbal. This is volume 1, which is the European or Eastern Hemisphere herbs. And according to him, it is peppermint. He's talking about peppermint is usual among the mints because it has these nervine properties, but it's unusual because of its hot and cold properties. So a lot of times we classify herbs as if they're warming or cooling. And in this case, it kind of has both. It has sort of a cooling taste, and yet it has a stimulating and warming effect. And it has lots of different active ingredients. And the main one is the menthol. The genus for mints is mentha. So the menthol, the oil, is what is most well known for. Now, peppermint is also good for treating a fever and chills. It has both anti-spasmodic, so that's what's calming things down. So like that, what I talked about earlier, the spasms in your gut for digestive problems. But it's also analgesic, which is somewhat of a painkiller. And it also helps you to open your pores and sweat out. And of course, sweating is a cooling action. The other thing I thought was interesting is that it works well with the lymph system, and the lymph kind of goes out to other parts of the body where the normal circulatory system doesn't necessarily go, into different tissues, and it can move into these areas and help to stimulate the tissues there. Now, peppermint oil, just inhaling the peppermint oil is sort of exhilarating, and it's good for, can be used for headaches. And this is like a peppermint essential oil. Quick reminder, never take an essential oil internally. I don't care what people say, don't do it. It has these stimulating properties. It kind of wakes up your senses. And when you put it into a rub or liniment, if you ever get any of those, like, I don't know, icy hot or whatever these things are, and you put them on there and you feel it feels hot, it's bringing the blood flow to that area, and that's helping to bring more blood to the muscles and help to heal your sore muscles. Now, one of my favorite things to do is to take the mint essential oil into just a water spray bottle and just spritz it during the summer. It is very refreshing and very cooling. And it's also very cooling and refreshing for those of us who might be menopausal or perimenopausal, and it helps like having a hot flash. There's nothing better than a little spritz of cooling mint on your face during one of those. Now, the flower essence has an interesting property. It is primarily for mental clarity, similar to the oil, but it also helps to stimulate your underactive metabolism. So according to Saskia's floweressences.com, peppermint flower essence helps with mental sluggishness. It brings things into sharp focus so that you can see them clearly. It's good for you when you are tired and having trouble concentrating. So this might be something that you might take if you need to go to yet another Zoom meeting that you are just falling asleep on, and you might put a little peppermint oil into a diffuser, or take a few drops of peppermint flower essence. Now, according to Flower Essence Services, their repertory, those who need this remedy have a soul struggle between the lower and upper parts of their being, especially between the sort of metabolic and digestive forces and the thinking and creative forces. In these cases, the life forces overwhelm the consciousness with too much warmth, making the mental capacity dull and lethargic. So it helps to sort of balance out your physical and mental aspects of your sort of whole being there. Now, this week it was kind of, I've been loving that soul flower deck so much. But this week, because I'd already drawn this card, I returned to the Herb Crafters Tarot, this one here. And so that was fun to kind of get back to that a little bit. They're more herbalist oriented. But the mint is the 4 of water. And 4s represent borders, limits, and structures. And so this is asking us, when you pull a 4, it's asking us to be aware of how our external factors are affecting our personal journey, our sort of personal purpose. So the image on here is that there are mint leaves steeping in a pitcher of water. There's a table with glasses. 1 is empty and 3 are full. And it's surrounded by a border of mint all around this little sanctuary out in the garden. Looks like there's a bird bath. And then the forest is kind of far in the background, surrounding wilderness. So this is kind of a place that's been carved out for coming in to relax. So mint is asking us to be aware of the borders around our thoughts and feelings, especially in the area of like boredom or discontent. And as I talk about this a lot, our thoughts are what create our feelings. So you want to make sure that you're only thinking the thoughts that serve you, that it's not an easy task, but it's really, really important to work on. So the image of this garden, like I said, shows a nourishing and soothing space for contemplation. And we spoke of, keeping these thoughts in control. Just like mint definitely can take over your whole garden, so can negative thoughts take over your whole mind if you are not careful. Something I say all the time. So the gift of mint is manyfold. It's refreshing, it's cooling, and in the winter, it's stimulating. It helps warm the digestion. And so what better way to focus on this than with gratitude, to be thankful for all of the things that it provides for us. So you can refresh your spirit and quench your thirst with this delicious mint water here, and having gratitude for all it provides. Same for life. Make sure that you're always having gratitude for that. And remember that you have the power to choose what you grow in your garden. So be mindful of your thoughts, nourish your positive feelings, and just celebrate the height of spring. Get out there and do some rollicking around. Well, you don't have to rollick, but get outside, enjoy the fresh flowering plants that are coming out for all of us, and enjoy those. So that is our message tonight from Mint. And I wanted to just say that a huge thank you to everyone that came and joined my herbal immersion challenge that I did last week. It was so incredibly awesome. It was just such a great experience for me to be able to put together this 5-day program for you. And at the end of it, I made an offer that if you want to continue working more on a small group level with me, you can do that. So you can still go into the Facebook page for another week if you're interested in going through all of the different lessons. There's 5 different things that you can do. And I'll put the link down below here so you can get over there if you want to. So thank you again for watching. My name's Allison from the Well Cultivated Life, and I hope you have a great, great evening. Take care.